Hello there again. So, today I want to tell you a story. And today's story is about Charles Schwab. And many of you may be familiar with Charles Schwab Investments. And others might know that he also owned before he was Charles Schwab Investments, was the second largest steel magnate in the world. Behind, of course, Andrew Carnegie, who was the king of steel at the time. And so you know that even in modern times, with inflation and with all that's happened, he is still regarded as one of the richest men of all time, right? In terms of old money, generational wealth, and one of the kind of fathers of industrialism, in addition to, as I said, Andrew Carnegie, Henry Ford, and Thomas Edison. In fact, Thomas Edison once said that he'd never seen a man with more hustle than Charles Schwab. And so for someone who attempted and only succeeded to invent the light bulb after thousands of attempts, to say that about Charles Schwab is quite the compliment, right? So back to Charles Schwab. So Charles Schwab was obviously very successful. He was making lots of money, and ultimately he wanted one thing, and that one thing was to be more productive, to get more done, to be more efficient. And so he brought in a productivity consultant by the name of Ivy Lee, and he explained his challenge, his problem to him, what he felt was the hurdle, the stumbling block, the glass ceiling that he couldn't break in his business, and asked Ivy Lee to assist him and advise him and help him scale the business by scaling productivity. So in response, Ivy Lee then said to him, I'm going to ask of you one thing, and that one thing is that you give me 15 minutes of FaceTime with each of your executive team. And I'm not going to ask you for any payment up front, but in 3 months' time, based on the revenue growth and the growth of your business, you can then send me a check for what you think the value is that I added. And so, of course, Charles Schwab agreed. And he then proceeded, this is Ivy Lee now, to do the interviews and the coaching sessions with the executive team. And by the end of 3 months, he received a check from Charles Schwab for $25,000. And in modern times, this would roughly equate to about $750,000 for what was probably, 3 hours of work interviewing the management team. And so what the story tells us is two things. The first thing is that, of course, it's not about the time that you spend. It's about the experience, the wisdom, the insight that you bring to the time that is valuable. And the second thing is what he taught the executive team, which is, I'm sure, what you're wondering right now, to get such a check of $750,000 from Charles Schwab. And so what he taught them was essentially a framework, a model for how to approach their to-do list. And so he said to them that each morning they should write down 6 tasks which they felt would, if they completed these tasks, would have the most impact on the growth of the business, on scaling the business, on generating additional revenue, that would really be the highest impact activities that they could do, right? So not spending major time on minor tasks, but spending major time on major tasks, as Jim Rohn says. And so they then had to put down their 6 priorities for the day, right? List them. That was step 1. Step 2 was to then prioritize them in order of importance. And step 3 was then to start at the first task on the list and not to move to number 2 until number 1 was 100% completed. And through this simple 3-step framework, they were able to generate enough additional revenue, more sales, grow the business in such an exponential way that 3 months later, Charles Schwab would pay $25,000, in today's terms $750,000, to Ivy Lee. And so this method is known as the Ivy Lee method. And so if you feel like you're stuck, if you feel like you're not getting done what you need to do, if you feel like you can be more productive, this is one of the frameworks you can use to achieve the results that you are looking for. And I'm sharing this with you, and maybe in 3 months' time, I'll receive a check from you for $750,000. Wouldn't that be nice? So I hope you benefited from the story. I hope you found value in it. When I actually heard the story for the first time, the only question I had at the end was if this was the framework, the Ivy Lee method, that Charles Schwab was using to generate such amazing results. And he was the second largest steel magnate in the world. What was Andrew Carnegie doing? What was his framework, his productivity hack to achieve the results he was achieving as the number 1, the largest steel magnate in the world and the wealthiest man in the world at the time?